might be the first country in the world to see the sun each day, but the future arrives first in California. The west coast of North America sets the trends. The rest of the world follows them. Well, some of them. We met Americans before the Second World War, of course, but it was the war that brought them here in numbers to prepare for the long slog up the Pacific or to rest afterwards. And we made them welcome, though we didn't always understand them.
The big crowd tries hard to follow the play, but only millions of Americans can understand it.
Some of their ideas were rather strange, but just might catch on.
Supermarkets are a popular feature of American life, and if the New Zealand public likes the idea, stores modelled on them may soon become established in this country.
When television came, we began to see Americans in their natural habitat. They were affluent and had cute kids and lovable dogs. The image of the situation comedies wasn't so much American as Californian, and a simplified, glamorized California at that. But the affluence was real. California has the most affluent lifestyle in the world. Its 28 million people have an average earning rate 10% higher than other Americans. And the state's economy is larger than those of many countries. If it was a country in its own right, it would have the 6th largest economy in the world. The gross state product of California, that's the total value of the productive energies of its people, is 500 billion United States dollars. That means the productive output of Californians is almost 18,000 US dollars for every person in the state. The comparable figure for New Zealanders is barely 11,000 US dollars. Put another way, New Zealand's gross national product is 56 billion New Zealand dollars. If we produced at the same rate as Californians, our GNP would be 90 billion dollars. The result of that productivity is a high level of personal wealth. Incomes in California are 10% higher than the United States average. That makes them a target for just about everyone in the world with something to sell. Catching their attention can be a big and expensive problem.
Advertising is enormously expensive, and there is a lot of it. Over 1,500 exposures a day to an average person. Advertising messages a day. And that's a conservative estimate. So people are bombarded with television commercials, radio commercials, magazines ads, newspaper ads. Look at any newsstands. It's just packed with magazines, and that's only a tenth of what's available.
Catching the eye of someone exposed to 1,500 advertising messages a day might seem impossible to an exporter with the sort of advertising budgets available to New Zealand companies. But if you can get noticed, the potential rewards are huge. Take Steinlager. It's now selling Americans more than 500,000 cases of beer each year. That's impressive. But imagine this bottle represents the total Steinlager beer sales in the United States. Then this bottle represents the sales of the biggest selling imported beer, Heineken. But Heineken has only a quarter of all imported beer sales. And imported beers make up just 4% of all United States beer sales. It's a market worth fighting for. But more than 300 domestic brands and 450 imported brands are already in that fight. So, how do you get in?
I would not even contemplate trying to penetrate the North American market. I would not contemplate trying, unless I had enormous marketing funds and people and money, I would take a segment of it. Just as a smart American marketer doesn't try to bring out a new product and introduce it in the United States. No one is big enough to do it. Very rarely would someone roll out a product nationally, and they would only do it if they are a huge American manufacturer and marketer. Most marketers, even the big ones, take a test market, then they go to a region, and if they're successful there, then they roll it out slowly.
And that's been the Steinlager strategy. It's now available in 45 states, but it's marketed actively only in California, Hawaii, and Colorado. The second part of the strategy was to find a local importer with a good grip on the market.
1st of January last year, we decided that in order to get the brand up to its full potential, we had to make an adjustment with our importer up here. We formed a new relationship with a company called Martlet Importing, who is a subsidiary of Molson Breweries out of Canada. They're a big organization, they understand the beer business, and they have the resources to take Steinlager to where we would like it to be.
You've got to have a brand that's going to be supported, you know, by the home brewery. You've got to have a brand that's quality, and you've got to have the right packaging for the United States market. All those things we felt Steinlager had. We're targeting at obviously the more imported-oriented markets. College markets are very, very good. The on-premise business, such as this type of place here, loves the imported brands. They're a high profit item for the accounts, so that they like to push them. It gives us good sampling. It gives us an opportunity to bring other consumers into that particular brand. And with the kind of packaging we have with the longer, bigger bottle now, which is very hot in the market here, we feel we've got everything we need.
The groundwork is paying off, with Martlet getting Steinlager onto the shelves in sports bars and liquor supermarkets in target areas of Southern California. But both Steinlager and Martlet feel it's still too soon to try a major promotion to the public.
What we have to concentrate on is getting the distribution. Once we have our distribution and the retail trade up to an acceptable level, then we will go to the consumer and start talking to them and having them pull the product off the shelf via advertising. But right now, it is premature for us.
Awfully expensive to advertise. You've got to have an awful lot of boxes to warrant any kind of advertising, and if you're not heavy-weighted on TV or radio in these markets, you're never heard. So what we've opted to do, while we have some advertising in the can that we can use if the time, you know, if it warrants it, what we're going to do is use more regional marketing approaches, incentives, more customer or consumer-oriented things, rebates, trips, that type of thing, to get people to try it rather than go for the mass media.
In one or two trial markets, mass media advertising has been piloted with eye-catching black and white TV commercials.
I got a confession to make.
All right, go ahead, spill it.
Well, I never had one.
That gets me right here.
Oh, come on, Jack, just tell me what it's like. I don't want to go without ever knowing. You gotta tell me. I've never had one. Just let me have one before I go on, please. I never had even one. Not one, I swear.
Steinlager. Steinlager is now 23rd in volume of sales among those 450 imported beers. The company's immediate target is 5 million cases a year, which would make it one of the top 10 imported beers. Steinlager has no natural advantages over its almost 800 competitors. Success will depend entirely on sound marketing techniques. For another New Zealand company, success has come from spotting a market niche ideally suited to its product. According to the song, it never rains in Southern California, but just in case, they still put roofs on their houses. Traditional roofing is wood shingles or shakes. They're the local style and they're cheap, but they buckle and split and have to be replaced every 10 years or so. They're also a considerable fire hazard. Metal roofs were unknown in suburban California till AHI, now Carter Holt Harvey, decided they'd spotted a market opening.
We opened an office here in California in 1977 and set about looking to establish distribution for the product. We recognized from our past experience in other markets that it was important to align ourselves with the right people. The important thing with our product is to not only market the system properly, but also to have the system installed properly.
With an export like roofing, it's not enough just to deliver the product. If it's not installed correctly, it doesn't work, and word soon gets around. The firm decided to sell not the tiles, but installed roofs through an established local re-roofing firm. That way, they ensured quality control and bought their way into a distribution network. It's taken a while to get sales moving because the tiles were a totally new concept to the Californian homeowner. But now, once one goes up in a street, a whole rash of them seem to break out.
The testimony, I guess, of our success in this market is that we are now in the process of establishing a manufacturing facility here in Southern California to service not only the California market but the whole US market.
Roofing tiles are selling because they meet a range of market needs. They're high quality, low maintenance and fire safe. But there's another reason Carter Holt Harvey are confident enough to set up a manufacturing plant locally. Between now and the year 2000, California will need more than 3 million new homes to cope with population growth. Carter Holt Harvey and Steinlager both acknowledge that their sales have benefited from the local partnership deals they've set up.
Our advice to any New Zealand exporter is to do your homework first and get some market research done and know what market it is that you're going to go after, who your competitors are in that market, what the pricing is, what the distribution chain is for that market, what the margins are, and if possible get some research done which will shortlist potential agents.
You have some very interesting examples of people who come in from overseas. They try to do things and then all of a sudden they determine that, well, this isn't going to work and we're going to have to get a partner, and you're seeing more and more of that now. You have these partnerships where foreign firms will come in and form a joint partnership with an American operation.
Sometimes the process works the other way, and it's the American operation that goes looking for a New Zealand supplier. Bill Alpert distributes pastry products throughout the 10 western states.
It was in the days when the Development Finance Corporation was still working with small businesses. They had an office in San Francisco, and we approached them to see if we could find a New Zealand company that had similar background and similar ambitions as we did. And they found this small bakery in an even smaller town called Mania that seemed interested in doing something innovative. They did have experience with frozen dough, but I don't think they had ever done anything with the United States before, and this was an opportunity for them as well as for us.
The opportunity was the croissant. The classic French pastry has become a hit on the tables of America, but it's hardly a traditional New Zealand export. So how did a small Taranaki bakery expect to compete with the mass production bakeries of California?
The large croissant companies throughout the world, especially in the USA, they have large production equipment and they have machinery pumping out dough at the rate of 1, 2 to 4 tonne an hour, and the dough is processed very quickly in a matter of an hour and the product is finished with. Now, you can tell that it hasn't had the care or the treatment of this particular product.
Well, it's a better croissant. I mean, look at the structure. If you pull them apart, you'll see how the inside is like a honeycomb. That's all those layers of butter and dough. The New Zealand butter is so much richer. It gives it a richer taste. There's no oily aftertaste like there is when you use margarine. And it really outperforms the competition.
3 things make the Mania croissant stand out from the competition in California. The preparation process is slower, the dough is hand-rolled, and 40% of it is New Zealand butter.
Butter makes a better pastry. You don't get an oily aftertaste. You get a richness that only butter can provide. It's a wonderful ingredient, and particularly New Zealand butter, which is very low in moisture, and the quality standards of New Zealand butter are really unequaled anyplace else in the world.
Yarrows have developed a freezing process which lets them give a 6-month freezer life guarantee. American bakeries can thaw enough for each day's needs, and with minimal preparation turn out a light, well-textured and well-coloured croissant. They stand out so much from the competition that when Yarrows first started supplying California, they were accused of colouring the dough. Yarrows now face a different problem, but it's a good problem to have. They can't keep up with demand.
It's like going into any international marketplace. You must be able to supply what you say you can supply. Some of the markets that we have looked at require upwards of 800 to 1 million croissants every 2 weeks. Now, these markets are out of the question at this stage until we can ensure that we can supply when the customer wants the product.
Yarrows now have to find a way to step up production without losing the quality that comes from their careful manufacturing process. Already, though, they've managed to achieve one of the things that's vitally important to New Zealand exporting. They're adding value to one of our traditional primary products.
Because of the quota situation applying to dairy products into the United States, New Zealand Dairy Board isn't allowed to send butter into the USA. Now, what we've done is that we've packaged butter into a different form and sold it throughout the USA. So, really, we've now put more butter into the United States than the New Zealand Dairy Board.
Yarrow's bakery might be getting more butter into the United States than the Dairy Board by disguising it as croissant, but the Dairy Board has developed a few tricks of its own to help the New Zealand farmer. We have a quota of cheese we're allowed to send to the USA. Much of it has tended to go to the bulk market, which doesn't give us high returns as branded retail cheeses. But in such a competitive market, how do we get a share of retail cheese sales?
Struggling your way up through the morass of 20,000 brands by having a tiny little entree into a market is a very slow process and often very expensive. In other words, if you're tiny and you have to spend a huge amount of advertising dollars to get your name known, the amount of dollars you're spending per ounce of product is huge. So you might be better off to do as we did by going in and buying two very large companies and putting them together so that you immediately had one of the biggest cheese distribution companies in the United States. You're coast to coast instantly, and while you've spent a lot of money, the income from that company is helping offset the cost of the company to you, and your advertising dollars are going on a brand that is already known and through which you can now bleed or introduce new products, obviously preferably from New Zealand.
We're distributing both European imported cheeses and a large volume of European domestic natural and domestic processed cheese. That gives us the breadth of the range. It means that in large supermarkets we perhaps have 10, 20, 30 items, one or two of which may be New Zealand. But if we simply tried to retain our presence in the store with those one or two New Zealand items, we'd be unsuccessful in the long term and it would be expensive in the short term.
Ownership of the Dorman Roth chain makes the Dairy Board the 4th or 5th largest cheese business in the United States. But how does the board justify such a purchase?
Commodity producers have never got rich and stayed rich. And it doesn't just have to be agricultural commodities. It can be any darn commodity you like. By commodity, what do we mean? Something that's bulk, anonymous, unbranded. If you think about it, commodity producers don't get rich. It's the guys who then take the commodity, process it, add value to it, put a brand on it, and market it.
Being more than a commodity producer is now central to the Dairy Board's philosophy. But that doesn't just mean gaining control of distribution systems. It can also mean creating new products. One of the big growth areas for the board has been in developing specialized milk proteins from casein. The range of uses for these would probably astound most Kiwi dairy farmers.
Milk proteins are used in a wide variety of applications in the U.S. food market. In fact, I think they cover just about every market segment that we can find. Confectionery products, bakery products, ethical medical products, convenience foods, pet foods. They're not replacing anything. They're put in there to increase the nutritional value or to perform a certain function in the food system. You might find one that's used as a whipping agent. You might find one that's used strictly to increase the protein value.
The American housewife doesn't know it, but New Zealand milk proteins are doing everything from adding nutritional value to breakfast cereals, to glazing hamburger buns, to binding meat patties, to thickening soups, and even acting as an egg substitute. In fact, almost any type of food product can now have some form of milk protein as an ingredient. Because milk protein products are at the leading edge of food technology, the Dairy Board has to do more than just supply them to the United States food manufacturers.
In many cases, we actually work as a sort of a partner in research and development with them. We train them on the application aspects of milk proteins and work with them right from the concept of a product in many cases through until when it's introduced into the market.
The Dairy Board believes its wide range of activities in the United States, as well as providing outlets for our dairy products, helps safeguard our import quotas when American protectionist measures are promoted.
We're a significant employer of American people. We employ approximately 1,000 people in our whole group in the United States. We operate 4 manufacturing plants of quite a wide diversity of activity and significant numbers of other technical and salespeople. Congressmen, local congressmen and local senators are always very interested to discuss that and hear about that. So it's a good representation that we can make, that we're not just an importer, we're also investing in the domestic activity.
The New Zealand dairy farmer is no longer just a commodity producer. Through the Dairy Board, our dairy farmers are now the shareholders in New Zealand's most widespread international corporation, owning processing, manufacturing, packaging, distribution and marketing companies throughout North, Central and South America, Europe, the Middle East and Asia.
Our reason for being is not to sell more milk. Our reason for being is to make the maximum possible profit for New Zealand dairy farmers. We've owned variously crocodile farms and things distributing motor cars and all sorts of oddities. We sell fertiliser. Now, that's not our core business, but we're one of the major margarine producers in New Zealand. We'll get into anything that our expertise can cover and makes more money for New Zealand dairy farmers. We'll sell other people's dairy produce. Our expertise lies there. In the last 12 months, we would have bought more than 100,000 tonnes of other people's dairy products.
New Zealand has always thought of earning a living by selling the products of the land. But increasingly, there are opportunities to sell the products of the mind, ideas and designs. Sid Morse owns the California Mart. It's a huge supermarket for retail clothing buyers, and orders for $6 billion are written there every year.
You know, the embryo of creativity is available to anybody, any place, at any time. And that creativity, because I think Los Angeles is the creativity capital of the world because of motion pictures, arts, sciences, and certainly fashion. But those germs of ideas happen any place. Look at Exposé, for instance. I think they're having a tremendous success here in the U.S.
Exposé is just one of 1,800 tenants in the California Mart. It's a family firm from Tauranga which now exports swimwear to 14 countries. But to try to break into the California market meant competing with almost 500 other swimwear manufacturers from around the world. So, how do you start?
It has to find a little niche in the American market. You have to stand for something a little different than the rest of the market, but not totally outrageous. Exposé was one of the first in the United States with brief bikinis at a time that the customer was looking for it. So we kind of found that niche, we filled it, and we've built on that. We cater to the surf shops, the beach stores, the hard-body California-type girls that you see in the movies. There are other companies that cater to the more missy, the more mature, the middle America, the farm girls. We don't. We don't have a product for them. We cater to that hard body. That's what we've done for 5 years. Now that we've established ourselves as a fringe brand name, we are now starting to expand into some more conservative, still not really conservative, but we're starting to expand into slightly more conservative, more missy suits perhaps my mother might be able to wear.
Exposé targeted a very specific part of the American swimwear market and hit that target with the right designs at the right time. It holds that market with its unique fabric designs and by keeping its styling at the head of the fashion queue. And that's the sort of skill that broadens New Zealand's exporting base without the need for huge capital investment. Finding your market niche is critical to successful selling in the United States. But there are dangers in assuming that once you've found it, you can relax.
You have to be very attuned to the market, just the way it shifts. In fact, the whole U.S. consumer market is undergoing this big shift with the aging of the baby boom, and a lot of people around haven't caught up with this idea that the population is aging, and so you have all these stores that cater to the teenagers, the young 20s, a whole different type of customer, and their customer has left them. And you have the baby boomer, and the term they use in the United States now is that these people are cocooning. They're buying homes, they're buying VCRs, they're starting families, and everything is very home-oriented.
We had an enormous growth in population in this country, a great bulge and great number of babies born. And it has been likened by one demographer as a mongoose, or a large rat, say, being eaten by a snake, and you can see that big bulge in that snake as it travels through. It's a graphic picture, but that is what's going on. So you want to look at all times, where is that bulge in the population?
The bulge meant new earners, the 18 to 24-year-olds, almost doubled between 1960 and 1980. At their peak, there were more than 30 million of them. Today, there are 3.5 million fewer, and their numbers will drop by another 1.5 million by the year 2000. The 25 to 34-year-old group has also shown phenomenal growth, but they peaked this year at around 44 million. From 1990, they decline. There'll be 7 million fewer of them by the turn of the century. The bulge has started for the 35 to 44-year-olds, but they still have a way to climb. There are just over 35 million of them today. There'll be 44 million by the year 2000. But the real marketing opportunities lie with those between 45 and 54. There are 24 million of them today. In 12 years, there'll be 13 million more. And the retirement group just keeps on growing and will continue to increase well into the 21st century. By the year 2000, 1 American in every 3 will be over 50, and that fact presents huge marketing opportunities. Another opportunity lies with those in their 30s. Many postponed marriage, but now they're buying homes and having families.
A full third of those people are making dual incomes together, combined incomes of over $50,000 a year. So they have money, but they're both working, they don't have time. So if you have convenience products, products that make their life easier, they'll do very well. Nobody has time anymore. They have money, but no time. So it's got to be easy for them. They want quality. They're willing to pay more for quality products. New Zealand has quality products, and I think New Zealand has an opportunity to market things like its produce and its fish and its meats as quality products from New Zealand. There ought to be something special in their minds about New Zealand.
Marketing in the United States has taught New Zealand exporters the importance of watching market trends and supplying products that consumers want. It's taught the value of innovation, targeting, and quality. All of those lessons are vital if we're to succeed with our next big marketing challenge, Asia, the consumer of the 21st century.